What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Clowns Podcast, Season 2. I'm your host, Meej, and today we're doing a way too early top 5 players to avoid. I appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Season 1 was fantastic. It died off a little too soon. A lot of complications came up, but Season 2 is going to be much more action-packed, consistent, and I'm more excited than ever to be back on the pod. So, as always, I say we jump right into this, and let's start with our first person to avoid in the draft. And it's going to be, I don't want to say obvious, but it's going to be Darren Waller. Now, he had an iffy fantasy season last year. He had some games where he was popping off. He also had some games where he was, invisible for most of the game. Now, the Raiders established a solid offense, a solid passing offense, actually, without needing to rely on any of their running backs. I think that could change. I always feel like Josh Jacobs could get more involved in the offense, but that's not the main reason. It's obviously because Devontae Adams is now on the Raiders, and he's probably the best wide receiver in the league. I'm a Raiders fan. I don't want to be biased, but I do believe he's the best wide receiver in the league. So he's obviously going to take some targets away. And not to mention Hunter Renfrow is a target machine, and he's always been one of the best slot receivers in the league, quietly, but he has been one of the best slot receivers in the league. Now, the tight end position is pretty sparse, so just depending on where you see Waller, I wouldn't reach for him, He could offer that upside, maybe Adams and Renfrow make it possible so that he does see more targets because he's more open in the field. I just don't know. I don't like the situation. As a Raiders fan, I don't like any of the 3 picks this year. I don't like anyone on the Raiders this year except for Derek Carr. Main reason just being that the offense should be very, very good. I think it's going to be well uniform. I just don't want any of the individual wide receivers or tight ends. So, Darren Waller, number 1. Moving on. This may be controversial again. Tyreek Hill. Now, we all know that Tyreek Hill is an established top 5, top 3 even, wide receiver in the NFL. But he's going from Patrick Mahomes to Tua Tagovailoa. Now, I'm not even going to take a shot towards Tua because he has some of the best deep accuracy in the league. You look it up, it's true. He has some of the best deep accuracy in the league, and I think that obviously fits very well for Tyreek. But you can't forget that Jalen Waddle is on the team, and he's going to be a big part of that offense. He came to life last season. The guy was ridiculously good. I mean, I didn't expect it. He was on waivers on many teams, or many leagues, through the first couple of weeks. Got picked up. Unfortunately, I couldn't get him. But he was wreaking havoc on the field. That's not to say Tyreek couldn't do the same thing. He's an amazing player. He's one of the fastest people in the entire world. He's insane. He can catch the ball. I think he proved that he's not only just speed last season. He's a prolific player and he can make plays when they need it. But I just think that the QB downgrade and maybe the offensive scheme as a whole just won't fit as well. But in the past, Tyreek Hill, he's playing with Kelsey. Kelsey's the best tight end in the league, maybe ever, right? So you got to think about that. And it's a tough situation, and that's why I want to avoid it, especially when he's going pretty early. I don't think he's going as early as he has been recently, but he is still going very early. Now, moving on from that, I'm going to mention Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall is getting drafted surprisingly high. I think he's in the first 3 rounds in many leagues, definitely in the first 4. But he's in the first 3 rounds in many leagues, and I just don't understand why. Because Michael Carter's still there. The Jets are going to be probably another questionable team as a whole this year. We don't know how good they're going to be. They're in a very good division. They're in a very good, tough defensive division, mind you. I just think it's going to be tough for Breece Hall to make such a big impact. A round 2, round 3 pick. I wouldn't say round 2. Round 3, round 4 impact this season, I think, It just can't be expected from the guy. But then again, rookies have been performing very well in past years. It's just a trend that's been happening. Minus Clyde. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was getting drafted way too early. I think everybody remembers that. He's just getting drafted way too early in his rookie season. But Breece Hall, I think he's being put into a spot. It's going to be a tough offense. He's going to have to learn the NFL a little bit, get more comfortable. He's still going to have to beat out Michael Carter. It's just a tough backfield. It's a tough team as a whole. I don't think they're going to make much noise this year, despite many decent offensive additions. I just don't feel that he's a very good value pick or even a smart pick. Next is going to be the former fantasy champion, Christian McCaffrey. Now, I say this only because this is simple. This is going to be the shortest one of all the players. If he gets hurt, you lose your league. That's it. The upside is obviously there. The guy can handle many carries. He's a phenomenal running back. But he has the injury history. He hasn't played a lot over the last 2 seasons. He's got the injuries. And you just don't want to be in another David Johnson situation. And I think that that's very important because, I was in that situation. I was a firm David Johnson believer. And he's going 6, just like David Johnson was. When he doesn't play, your team is going to be it's going to be just so poorly disadvantaged. I mean, the running back position is already scarce as a whole. It's just going to be tough to move on if you got McCaffrey on IR all season again for a second consecutive season. Now, moving on, last but definitely not least, is Keenan Allen. Now, this is an interesting one because Keenan Allen's just been a consistent guy all throughout his league, all throughout his NFL career. And last season, he put up 1.1K yards and 6 TDs. Now, it sounds pretty solid, right? But the TDs, I feel it's tough because Herbert has a lot of options on the field. Eckler takes a lot of receiving work. Mike Williams was a consistent wide receiver threat for the Chargers. I don't think he's going to go away anytime soon. Keep in mind, these are my way too early rankings, so these may come back to bite me. But I'm just saying, Keenan Allen, he's just not one of those guys I see performing very well in the coming years. He's 30 years old. It's sort of old for an NFL receiver. It's going to be a tough situation over there in LA. And I don't think he's a safe pick. So that's going to do it. Keep it around the 8-minute mark here for today's first episode of Season 2. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. I will be pumping these out more consistently than I did in the past. And I'm very excited to get Season 2 rolling. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.